Self-respect is the bedrock of true value, the unshakable anchor that determines how a person sees themselves and how the world treats them in return. It is not something that can be purchased, begged for, or borrowed from others. It is cultivated within and displayed in every word, every action, and every decision. Without self-respect, even the most accomplished individual can feel empty, insecure, or dependent on the approval of others. With self-respect, however, even in the absence of external validation, there is a quiet strength that radiates and commands recognition. To live with self-respect means knowing one's worth in every situation and refusing to compromise it for temporary comfort, fleeting affection, or superficial gain. It begins with a deep understanding that worth is not measured by popularity, physical beauty, or material possessions. True worth is rooted in integrity, dignity, and an unwavering belief that no one has the right to diminish or define another's value. When a person carries this mindset, it transforms how they show up in relationships, careers, and personal goals. One of the clearest demonstrations of self-respect is the ability to set boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep others out, but doors that determine who is worthy of entering and how far they may come. Without boundaries, people are vulnerable to manipulation, exploitation, and disrespect. Many struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection or disapproval, but the truth is, every time a boundary is violated without consequence, self-respect erodes. Saying no when necessary is not selfish. It is an affirmation of dignity. It communicates that one's time, energy, and emotions are valuable resources that cannot be squandered. A person who practices this consistently is rarely taken for granted because they have already taught others how to treat them. Equally important is the refusal to beg for love or attention. Too many fall into the trap of chasing approval, molding themselves into versions that others might prefer, or tolerating mistreatment in exchange for temporary companionship. But begging for affection always comes at the expense of self-respect. Love that must be chased is not real love, and attention that must be demanded is not authentic recognition. A high-value mindset understands that respect precedes love, and anyone who fails to respect does not deserve the privilege of access. Walking away from those who cannot honor one's worth is not a loss. It is a powerful declaration that one's dignity cannot be compromised. Self-respect is also reflected in the way one speaks and carries themselves. Words shape perception, and constant self-criticism, belittlement, or apologizing for existing sends a signal that worth is in question. On the other hand, speaking with confidence, affirming one's abilities, and carrying oneself with poise communicates assurance. This is not arrogance but clarity. It is the understanding that confidence does not require comparison. A person can acknowledge their value without diminishing others, and in doing so, they invite respect rather than demand it. Another aspect of self-respect lies in choices. Every decision, from how one spends their time to the people they allow into their lives, reflects the level of respect they hold for themselves. Choosing unhealthy relationships, toxic environments, or habits that harm the body and mind gradually weakens self-worth. Conversely, choosing growth, choosing peace, and choosing environments that nurture potential reinforces the message that one's life is valuable. The discipline to walk away from what no longer serves, even when it is familiar or comfortable, is one of the greatest demonstrations of respect for oneself. Self-respect also transforms the pursuit of goals and success. When driven by insecurity, people often chase achievements to prove their worth to others. They seek titles, wealth, or recognition not as expressions of passion, but as shields against feelings of inadequacy. But when driven by self-respect, goals are pursued with intention and authenticity. Achievements become byproducts of effort and purpose, not measures of identity. A person rooted in self-respect can celebrate their victories without arrogance and endure their setbacks without crumbling, because their worth is not defined by outcomes. Criticism and rejection are inevitable in life, but self-respect changes how they are received. Instead of internalizing negative words or allowing rejection to shatter self-esteem, a person with self-respect filters feedback with wisdom. Constructive criticism is accepted as an opportunity for growth, but baseless insults or disrespect are dismissed as reflections of the other person's limitations, not their own. This discernment prevents emotional manipulation and fosters resilience. A person grounded in self-respect is unshaken by opinions, because they know opinions do not define reality. In relationships, self-respect is the foundation of balance and equality. Without it, people are prone to overgiving, overcompromising, or tolerating mistreatment just to maintain connection. But with self-respect, love is offered freely yet with discernment. Affection does not blind them to red flags, and loyalty does not mean tolerating betrayal. They understand that true intimacy thrives only when both partners honor each other's dignity. Choosing to walk away from those who do not reciprocate respect is not a sign of bitterness, but of wisdom. It sends a message that connection must be mutual, not one-sided. Self-respect is also inseparable from self-care. How one treats their body, mind, and spirit is a reflection of how much they value themselves. Ignoring health, neglecting rest, or constantly overextending for others communicates a lack of regard for personal well-being. But nurturing the body with good habits, protecting the mind with positive input, and guarding the spirit with peace shows that one's life is worth cherishing. Self-care is not indulgence, it is evidence of self-respect. It is a declaration that one's well-being is non-negotiable. A subtle but powerful element of self-respect is silence. Not every insult deserves a response, not every conflict requires engagement, and not every opinion warrants explanation. Choosing silence over needless battles demonstrates maturity and control. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that one's dignity does not need constant defense. Silence, when rooted in self-respect, is not weakness but strength. It says, "My energy is too valuable to be wasted on things that do not elevate me." Furthermore, self-respect elevates how one contributes to the world. A person who values themselves deeply does not compete with others out of insecurity, but uplifts others from a place of abundance. They can celebrate another's success without feeling diminished, because they know that someone else's light does not dim their own. They can empower others, share wisdom, and inspire change without fear of losing status. In this way, self-respect not only enriches personal life, but also becomes a source of influence and leadership. Even in moments of failure, self-respect remains the guiding light. Failure does not strip away value, it simply teaches lessons. Those who lack self-respect often equate mistakes with personal inadequacy, spiraling into shame or self-doubt. But those grounded in respect see failure as evidence of effort and courage. They rise, adjust, and continue forward, knowing that setbacks do not define them. This resilience not only sustains personal growth, but also inspires others to embrace their journeys without fear of imperfection. Ultimately, self-respect is about alignment. It is the daily decision to live in harmony with values, principles, and dignity. It requires courage to stand alone when necessary, discipline to maintain standards, and wisdom to know that worth is not negotiable. It is not about pride, ego, or superiority. It is about recognizing that one's life, time, and soul are sacred, and treating them as such. When this mindset is fully embraced, it transforms everything: relationships, ambitions, and even the way one walks into a room. Purpose is the compass that gives life direction, clarity, and meaning. Without it, people drift like ships without sails, swayed by external forces, circumstances, and the opinions of others. With it, however, even the most difficult paths become meaningful, even the darkest nights are lit with hope, and even the simplest steps carry weight and significance. To live with purpose is to understand why you wake up every morning, why you push through challenges, and why you refuse to settle for less than the life you were meant to live. It is not about perfection, nor is it about following a rigid path. It is about aligning with something greater than momentary desires, something that resonates deeply with the soul. When purpose is absent, people often seek fulfillment in temporary pleasures or external validation. They chase money, status, or recognition, hoping these will provide lasting satisfaction. Yet the void remains because these things are fleeting and external. The applause fades, the possessions lose their shine, and the achievements eventually become yesterday's news. But when someone is anchored in purpose, their fulfillment is not dependent on external validation. It comes from the knowing that every action, no matter how small, is connected to a larger vision, a deeper calling, and a sense of meaning that cannot be taken away. Purpose provides clarity in a world full of noise. Every day, distractions compete for attention. Social media, trends, peer pressure, and endless comparisons can leave even the strongest feeling overwhelmed and lost. But when purpose is clear, distractions lose their power, decisions become simpler because there is a guiding question. Does this align with my purpose, or does it pull me away from it? This clarity saves time, energy, and emotional strength, allowing focus to remain on what truly matters. A purposeful person is not easily swayed because they know where they are going. Living with purpose is not about grand gestures or world-changing acts, although it can lead to them. It often starts in small, intentional actions. It might mean choosing a career path that reflects personal values rather than just financial security. It might mean creating art that inspires others, raising a family with love and wisdom, building a business that solves real problems, or mentoring someone who needs guidance. Purpose is deeply personal, and it does not have to look like anyone else's. What matters is not how big it seems to the world, but how deeply it resonates within. One of the most liberating truths about purpose is that it does not require permission. Too often, people wait for validation before pursuing what they feel called to do. They hesitate, afraid of judgment or failure, or they believe they are not ready, not skilled enough, not worthy enough. But purpose is not about perfection. It is about progression. The first step is often messy, uncertain, or filled with fear, but it is also the most important. Each step taken with intention builds momentum, and with time, clarity grows. Purpose is revealed not all at once but in layers as courage meets action. Purpose also fuels resilience. Life is full of obstacles, setbacks, and disappointments. Without a clear sense of why one is striving, challenges feel unbearable and failures feel final. But with purpose, even pain takes on meaning. Setbacks become lessons, challenges become stepping stones, and obstacles become opportunities to grow stronger. Purpose allows people to see beyond the present struggle and to recognize that every difficulty is shaping them for something greater. It transforms suffering into strength and endurance into victory. Another powerful quality of purpose is its ability to attract. Just as a magnet draws metal, purpose draws opportunities, people, and resources that align with the vision. Those who live with clear intention radiate a kind of energy that inspires others, and this energy naturally pulls like-minded individuals into their lives. Collaborations, friendships, and partnerships form not out of convenience, but out of shared vision. Even opportunities that seemed out of reach begin to present themselves because the world responds to conviction and clarity. When someone lives with purpose, they do not need to chase recognition or beg for chances. Purpose makes them magnetic. Purpose is also the antidote to comparison. In a world that constantly pushes competition, many fall into the trap of measuring their worth against others. But when someone is rooted in their own calling, they no longer feel the need to compete in races that were never theirs to begin with. They understand that purpose is unique and no one else can walk their path. This realization frees them from envy and insecurity, allowing them to celebrate the success of others without feeling diminished. Their worth is not tied to outshining anyone else, but to fulfilling what only they can bring to the world. Living with purpose requires courage, because it often goes against comfort and conformity. It means saying no to things that look appealing, but do not align with the deeper calling. It means walking away from paths that others may approve of, but that do not bring fulfillment. It means enduring seasons of uncertainty, rejection, or solitude while staying true to the vision. This courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Every purposeful life is marked by moments where the easier choice would have been to conform, but the braver choice was to remain true to the inner calling. Purpose is not static, it evolves. What feels like calling in one season may expand or transform in another. This evolution is natural, because growth changes perspective and experience adds wisdom. Staying connected to purpose means being open to its unfolding, willing to adapt, and trusting that each stage of the journey prepares for the next. There is no single moment when one arrives. Purpose is not a destination, but a lifelong journey of alignment and contribution. One of the most rewarding aspects of living with purpose is the impact it leaves on others. Purpose is never selfish, it always ripples outward. A person who lives with intention naturally inspires those around them. Their discipline encourages others to be consistent. Their courage motivates others to take risks. Their resilience shows others how to endure. Even without realizing it, they become a light for those still searching for direction. This influence is not about fame or recognition, but about leaving a legacy of authenticity and strength. At the heart of purpose is contribution. No matter how it manifests, true fulfillment always comes from serving something greater than oneself. It may be through work, relationships, creativity, or leadership, but the essence is the same. Purpose gives meaning because it connects the individual to something beyond personal gain. It provides the satisfaction of knowing that one's existence matters, that one's actions create value, and that one's presence makes a difference. This sense of contribution is what sustains fulfillment long after achievements have faded and accolades have been forgotten. To live with purpose also requires discipline. Dreams remain fantasies without consistent action. Purpose demands effort, persistence, and sacrifice. It requires waking up on days when motivation is absent, staying focused when distractions call, and continuing to move forward even when progress feels invisible. This discipline is not a burden but a privilege, because it reflects alignment with what truly matters. Those who embrace this discipline find joy not only in outcomes but also in the process itself, because every step feels meaningful. Even in solitude, purpose provides companionship. There are moments when the path feels lonely, when support is scarce, and when understanding from others is absent. But purpose sustains, reminding the individual that they are not walking aimlessly, but towards something significant. In those quiet moments, purpose whispers strength, reminding them that fulfillment is not found in the crowd's approval, but in the certainty of walking in alignment with their truth. Ultimately, purpose transforms life from mere existence into significance. It turns routine into ritual, struggles into growth, and ordinary moments into sacred steps of a greater journey. Those who discover and embrace it no longer wake up with emptiness, but with anticipation. Every morning becomes an opportunity to contribute, to progress, to align with something bigger than themselves. Every night becomes a chance to rest in the satisfaction that the day was not wasted, because it was lived with intention. Emotional intelligence is one of the most underrated yet most transformative strengths a person can possess. It is not measured by academic degrees, professional titles, or outward achievements, but by the ability to understand, manage, and channel emotions in a way that builds strength, preserves dignity, and nurtures meaningful connections. Where raw intelligence might open doors and physical strength might overcome obstacles, emotional intelligence allows a person to navigate the complexities of human life with grace, resilience, and influence. It is a quiet kind of power, one that does not shout or demand, but one that commands respect through composure, empathy, and self-awareness. The essence of emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. This is the ability to recognize one's own feelings, thoughts, and triggers without being consumed by them. Many people move through life reacting impulsively, carried away by anger, frustration, jealousy, or fear. Their choices become controlled not by wisdom, but by emotion. But those who cultivate awareness understand that emotions are signals, not dictators. Anger signals that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness signals that something valuable has been lost. Anxiety signals that uncertainty is at play. Instead of being controlled by these signals, a person with emotional intelligence listens, reflects, and then chooses their response deliberately. This awareness is the difference between reacting and responding, and it is the foundation of true strength. Beyond awareness lies the discipline of self-regulation. It is one thing to recognize emotions and another to control how they influence behavior. Self-regulation does not mean suppressing or denying feelings, but channeling them constructively. For example, frustration can be transformed into motivation to find solutions. Fear can be turned into caution that sharpens decision-making, and disappointment can be used as fuel to strive for better outcomes. Those who master regulation remain steady even when circumstances are stormy. They do not allow external chaos to create internal collapse. Their calmness becomes a source of stability not only for themselves, but for everyone around them. People naturally gravitate toward them in times of uncertainty because their composure brings reassurance. A powerful dimension of emotional intelligence is empathy. Empathy is not just the ability to understand the emotions of others, but to feel with them without losing oneself. It requires attentiveness, compassion, and genuine concern. In relationships, empathy builds trust because it makes others feel seen, heard, and valued. In leadership, empathy inspires loyalty because it acknowledges the humanity of those being led. Yet empathy must also be balanced with boundaries. because unchecked empathy can lead to emotional exhaustion or manipulation. Emotional intelligence allows a person to empathize deeply while also maintaining their own emotional health. This balance ensures that compassion does not become self-sacrifice, and that kindness does not turn into weakness. Emotional intelligence also shines in conflict. Conflict is inevitable in human interaction, whether in personal relationships, workplaces, or communities. Those without emotional intelligence often escalate conflict by reacting defensively, lashing out, or shutting down. They view disagreements as threats to their worth. But those with emotional intelligence approach conflict differently. They remain calm, listen actively, and seek to understand before seeking to be understood. They do not allow ego to cloud their judgment, nor do they allow anger to dictate their words. Instead, they focus on resolution, respect, and fairness. This ability not only prevents unnecessary damage, but also strengthens relationships, because conflict handled with wisdom can deepen trust. Resilience is another gift emotional intelligence provides. Life inevitably brings loss, rejection, failure, and disappointment. Without emotional intelligence, such experiences can lead to bitterness, despair, or self-doubt, but with it, people process pain without being defined by it. They grieve without losing hope, stumble without giving up, and acknowledge hardship without surrendering to it. Emotional intelligence does not erase suffering, but it equips individuals with the strength to rise again. It allows them to extract lessons from adversity and use those lessons to grow stronger. Their scars become symbols of survival, and their resilience becomes an inspiration to others. In decision-making, emotional intelligence acts as a compass. Logic alone cannot always guide choices, especially when people and relationships are involved. Purely rational decisions often overlook human factors, while purely emotional decisions risk impulsivity. Emotional intelligence bridges this gap, allowing logic and emotion to work together. For instance, in making career choices, emotional intelligence ensures that decisions align not only with financial goals, but also with personal values and well-being. In relationships, it allows people to balance feelings with practicality, ensuring that love does not blind them to red flags. This harmony between heart and mind leads to choices that are both wise and fulfilling. Emotional intelligence also enhances communication. Words are powerful, but their impact depends on tone, timing, and intention. Someone who lacks emotional intelligence may say the right words in the wrong way, leaving others hurt or misunderstood. On the other hand, someone with high emotional intelligence understands how to communicate with clarity, empathy, and respect. They know when to speak, when to listen, and when silence speaks louder than words. Their presence alone creates space for open dialogue and connection. Because of this, their influence extends far beyond what they say. It rests in how they make others feel. Perhaps one of the most profound expressions of emotional intelligence is the ability to forgive. Forgiveness does not mean excusing wrongs or allowing repeated harm. It means releasing the grip of resentment so that anger no longer controls the heart. Forgiveness is not for the offender, it is for the one who carries the pain. Emotional intelligence allows someone to recognize that holding on to bitterness only poisons their own spirit, while letting go restores peace. Forgiveness, guided by wisdom, is one of the most liberating acts of self-respect and compassion combined. Another aspect is the ability to inspire and influence others. People naturally trust and follow those who demonstrate emotional intelligence, because they feel safe, understood, and respected in their presence. Influence born from fear or authority fades quickly, but influence rooted in empathy, respect, and calm strength lasts. Whether in friendships, families, or organizations, emotional intelligence becomes a silent form of leadership. It allows someone to guide others without force, to motivate without manipulation, and to create harmony even in diversity. Emotional intelligence also nurtures self-confidence. Confidence is not about being loud or domineering. It is about being secure in who you are. This security comes from understanding and accepting your emotions rather than being ruled by them. A person who knows they can manage their inner world does not fear the outer world as much. They walk with quiet assurance, knowing that no matter what happens externally, they have the inner tools to handle it. This kind of confidence does not rely on external approval, which makes it unshakable. It is important to recognize that emotional intelligence is not something one is simply born with. It can be cultivated, Through reflection, practice, and humility, anyone can grow in self-awareness, empathy, and regulation. It requires the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about oneself, the courage to change harmful patterns, and the patience to practice new responses. Growth in emotional intelligence is not a quick process, but it is one of the most rewarding investments anyone can make because its benefits extend into every area of life. Emotional intelligence also helps protect peace. In a world full of negativity, criticism, and conflict, it is easy to absorb the energy of others. Without emotional intelligence, a single harsh word can ruin a day, and a single disappointment can trigger despair. But with it, people learn to protect their inner peace by not giving unnecessary power to external chaos. They discern which battles are worth fighting and which are best left alone. They recognize that not every opinion deserves attention and not every challenge requires engagement. This ability to maintain calm amid storms is not only a gift to oneself, but also to everyone around. In relationships of all kinds, emotional intelligence creates depth and authenticity. It allows people to connect beyond surface-level interactions, to build trust through vulnerability, and to support one another without judgment. It helps in recognizing when someone is hurting, even if they do not say it aloud, and it fosters the courage to offer comfort without needing to solve everything. Emotional intelligence turns ordinary interactions into meaningful bonds and transforms acquaintances into lasting relationships. What makes emotional intelligence a true form of power is that it cannot be faked for long. People can pretend to be confident, but without emotional intelligence, insecurity eventually shows. People can act empathetic, but without genuine understanding, it becomes manipulation. True emotional intelligence is felt, not performed. It radiates authenticity, and authenticity is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are real, who make them feel understood, and who lead with both strength and kindness. At its core, emotional intelligence is about balance. It is the balance between logic and emotion, between self and others, between vulnerability and strength. It is not about suppressing emotions or indulging them recklessly, but about honoring them while guiding them with wisdom. It is about recognizing that emotions are not weaknesses but powerful tools when managed correctly. With this balance, life becomes less about surviving chaos and more about mastering it with dignity.